The small city of New Prague, south of the cities, is closing its only labor ward, forcing people to drive 25 miles or more to another hospital to have a baby. And they announced they were doing this less than a month ago, and that violates state law. Mayo Clinic owns that hospital and says it simply doesn't have enough staff to keep the labor ward going. But this is part of a larger pattern. You'll see here the number of labor and delivery units closing across Minnesota. It's one of the highest in the country, with more than 20 closing in just the last decade. Jennifer Hoff is on the show tonight with an exclusive look at a new piece of legislation hoping to prevent all these closures. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi, Jana. Yeah, we'll see. There'll be a new bill introduced when the legislature starts again on Monday. Its author telling me while this doesn't fix this whole problem, it is a start to making rural health care and maternal health more of a priority.
The Mayo Clinic's hospital in New Prague closing its labor ward today. Officials saying at a public hearing there aren't any obstetricians left and only one baby a week is born there. Part of a pattern, experts say, that's only getting bigger.
The important thing is that rural Minnesotans deserve that health care, and we need to protect them and their ability to access that care.
Representative Andy Smith calls it a fractured system. Data shows it's the 24th hospital in Minnesota to shut down those services in the last decade, from Fosston, Cambridge, Albert Lea, and Ely.
We don't want to be leading in that category. We're proud of some areas that Minnesota are leading. This is not one of them.
Smith plans to introduce a new bill when the legislature starts Monday to change a law from 3 years ago, requiring facilities notify the state in cases like this within 120 days and hold a public hearing within 45. Mayo Clinic didn't do that and by law should be fined, except it's exempt because there's not enough staff to even stay open that long.
How will your new bill then remedy that?
Great question. I mean, it's not a fix-all. What this will do is will make it much harder for both nonprofit and for-profit hospitals to be able to close their doors or their wards without a public hearing, a public testimony, so that those in the local area will know about it.
If the bill passes, it would require a 300-day notice and a public hearing sooner, within 30 days. That also has to be held no more than 10 miles from the facility in question. And if any of those rules are broken, the state has to impose a $20,000 fine.
What is the benefit of holding a public hearing so that residents and people who are concerned can weigh in when it would appear that the decision has already been made?
First and foremost, it gives us more data, more voices to know about this closure. Secondly, we have seen potential examples where hospitals, I don't know what the right word would be, maybe back down or change their plans based on the outcry. And also the communities will have more chance to prepare for this closure.
Experts who study rural health say this kind of care has been steadily declining for decades, citing staffing shortages, high operating costs, and unsafe working environments. Fewer incentives to invest in maternal care, putting rural mothers and their babies at a higher risk of disease and death.
The fact that it's not profitable is not a good enough reason to withhold healthcare access for rural Minnesotans.
And that point, right? Money, profits, that may be the most complicated part of this story. It's quite hard to get into all of it. But the reimbursement rates for these services, again, is what makes that so sometimes hard to understand and really get through the weeds. So, for example, Medicaid pays for nearly half of all the state's births, but then in return, it only reimburses hospitals far less than the cost of actually providing that care. So that means that these hospitals are just constantly losing money when it comes to that stream of care. And really, until we change how certain health care is paid for, Jana, we are going to continue to have these conversations, especially around labor wards continuing to close.
Absolutely. It kind of reminds me of those conversations we have, not the same, but similar in terms of when schools have to close because there's too few students or teachers. You understand it from an economic standpoint, but from a fairness and what people need standpoint, it doesn't add up.
Not all the time, and really having a baby at a hospital that's located in your small town, or maybe where your mother had a baby or a family member did, or an area that you grew up, is really important and emotional for people. So while there might be some other hospital options for folks, I just thought it was important to note that that's, you know, sometimes those hospitals in those small towns are really the ones that people want to go to.
Yeah, it's the biggest day of your life. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Well,